Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to talk about something, a topic that kind of snuck up on me and might be a little surprising, but that is the need as an author to fall in love or back in love with your books. So bear with me as I explain this. I'm an indie author, as you probably know, and I have written, this is most of the books that I've written. I'm still waiting on copies of a couple. I write cozy closed door rom-coms, and these are 14 of them. And there's a couple of factors I'd like to talk about with the idea of are you in love with your books, or are you just seeing them as products? And it's twofold, really. The first part is just about the nature of becoming an author in the first place, and the second part is the nature of becoming we can say a prolific indie author. Okay, so those are two different things I want to address, and hopefully this will be relatable to you if you're watching it, or if you're aspiring to be an author, these might be things that will help you make note of some pitfalls that you might want to avoid. So the first challenge that we face with becoming an author is, in general, if you are deciding to write your book, your first book, it's because you love books. You love reading, you consume a lot of books, you love the stories, and you want to try your hand at writing your own book. And if you see any videos of me around, I'm always surrounded by books. I have my books over on the desk where I work. I have books from every stage of my growing up to now on the shelf behind me. I have my parents' books over on the shelf where I sit in the morning. There's books everywhere. I love books. And what I found is, especially once I started to love romance, and then ultimately when I decided to write it, my relationship with reading it changed. It got a little complicated because it was hard to read a book in my genre and not compare myself to it. So that's something that I'm still kind of navigating, still finding my way through. It's better now, but I think the key there has been not reading other people's really wonderful books when I'm in the middle of editing mine, because reading someone's final published draft while you're working your way through your first draft can be very demoralizing. But just in general, I noticed that I do read less now. I read a wider range of genres, but I do read less simply because I'm spending so much time in my own books. So that's the first part. That's the first thing to kind of be aware of, but not necessarily to just accept as reality. You know, I've found it very helpful to read, like I said, a wider range of genres. I still read romance, but I enjoy thrillers. Sometimes I even surprise myself and read a horror novel. You know, it's just whatever it is that is catching my attention, that's what I'm going to read. And also, as much as possible, I will try to turn my writer brain off and just read, you know, like an Emily Henry or Sarah Adams, something that just feels cozy and comforting. So the next challenge that I'm talking about is being an indie author and publishing like multiple books a year. So these books plus one more, these all came out in a period of about 4 years. And during that time, I was living in Turkey, and I use Ingram Spark to print and publish my books, and they have printers in the US, the UK, and Australia. So when I'm back here in the US, as I am now, it's much easier to order a proof copy and just get it. And when I was in Turkey, it took quite a long time. I only did that once. So what that means is, for my first book, which is this one right here, Pride, Prejudice, and Turkish Delight, this is the first novel that I wrote, and I planned a trip back to the States so that it would coincide with when I'd be able to get the first copy of this. It was very important to me to have that first copy. It's a very enjoyable experience to open the box, see it for the first time, and go, oh my goodness, isn't this so exciting? But I didn't really get that with subsequent books. Occasionally I would be back for a visit, but in general, I just couldn't plan that many trips back since I was publishing so many books. And so what that meant is that I would order proof copies and I would have them sent to my mom and have her be the one to look it over, tell me it looks okay, and then I would say, okay, now I'm going to enable it for distribution. So I didn't get to have that, oh my goodness, look at you experience, you know, with every single one of these books. I wasn't opening the box for the first time. Often I was seeing a couple of them or a small stack of them when I would come back for a visit. So I think that was one facet that sort of affected our relationship with each other, me and my books. Like the books are like, do you even care about us? You didn't even bother to come see us when we were born, you know, you're just showing up here. Now we're like toddlers. So that's part of it. And the other factor is that after that first book, the relationship changes, right? When you're just in the process of putting your very first novel out into the world, you can maybe have the illusion that everyone's going to love it, that it's going to, you know, just be universally adored, and yeah, and no one would ever DNF it or, you know, not give it 5 full stars, whatever the delusion is that we tell ourselves. But after you've seen that first book become a product, and something that people, as they have every right to do, are going to have different feelings about, then you can no longer pretend that that's going to be the case with subsequent books. So that can affect the writing process too, you know, where you're already knowing what it's like to have a finished novel. It might make it harder to write a first draft because you want it to be a final draft, all those sorts of things. This is a whole dance that has to be done. But the point of what I am talking about here is that what I realized is this disconnect that I felt with my books when I finally moved back to Michigan and I got copies of all of them, and it's almost like I'm looking at them like they're strangers. Because the fact is that I haven't ever gotten to just read one of them for fun, right? Every time I'm reading it, I have been reading it with a critical eye, looking for the things that I need to fix. And maybe that's part of why I, you know, don't just sit down and read one now, is I'm like, what if I find something I need to fix, and then, you know, just create work for myself. But the point of this video is that is exactly what I'm going to challenge myself to do. Turn off the editor brain and just get to enjoy these books as a reader, because I find it doesn't help my marketing efforts if I'm sort of showing up and sharing it as like a neutral third party, like I had nothing to do with the creation of these things. The best thing when you're sharing a story and a book that you loved, you know, you're sharing it because you loved it. You're sharing the latest Emily Henry because you read it and you loved it and you think your friends might enjoy it too. And it's a different relationship when it's something that you created, right? So not only do I think it will be good for me to just have forced time, it's such a funny way to phrase it, but forced time to relax and read and enjoy reading, but I also know it will affect the way that I show up and I talk about these books. And so that's something I'm really excited about. And it's also something that, yeah, I just want to encourage anyone who might be in the same position or might see the potential for finding themselves in that same position to do the same. Don't forget that the core, the key behind all of this is loving your story. And I think that this is sort of like exposure therapy for me. You know, when you think about, like, if you hear a recording of your voice and you go, ooh, I don't like that. That's a well-known experience many of us have had. We go, oh, I don't sound like that. First of all, side note with that, I would say that if you feel uncomfortable listening to your voice or watching yourself on video, then my encouragement would definitely be record videos and do the editing yourself, because exposure to that will make you more comfortable with it. At first, when I started doing YouTube videos, actually years ago when I had a podcast, editing it was a little tricky at first, but very quickly I learn to accept myself and to like my voice even, and to get comfortable hearing it. And then when I started doing YouTube, when I was first publishing videos, and you know, I'd be up in my office and I would publish them, and then I'd come downstairs and my husband would be watching the video on YouTube, and I would hear it or I would see it and I would just be like, you know, full body cringe of like, oh, I can't believe that I am having to experience this now, like, and also to witness you experiencing it. And exposure therapy again really helped with that, where it was like, yes, I can comfortably accept that the people who love me and the people I love can watch a video of me and it's not going to change the way they think of me, and it's okay, you know. It's a fun, interesting experience of living inside my own head. But I imagine my theory with this is that the books are the same thing, the same sort of way with that, where it's like, you know, as neutrally as I can watch someone else's videos or read someone else's books and not, you know, watch the video and read the book and be going, oh my gosh, how could you be thinking these things? How could you be such a fool? Or whatever sort of harsh language our inner monologue might bring to us about ourselves. I believe the same thing will be true by the time I get through this whole stack here. I think by the end of it, I'll be like, hey, I like this author. I think I'm going to read more of what she writes. which would be the ideal way to feel, since I will certainly be reading everything that she writes for the rest of my entire life. So I hope this will be interesting to follow along. Like I said, I'm going to be vlogging it. I haven't really done reading vlogs in the past, and I think it'll be a nice change of pace to do that. And I hope that it could be some sort of encouragement to you if there's something that you have created or are creating or want to create, and you find yourself like looking at it like this because it's hard to look at your own work straight on in the face. Do it along with me, work on learning to love whatever it is that you are trying to bring forth in the world. Thanks for staying until the end, and I'll see you next time.